Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 350th episode of the Simple Sophisticate, and welcome to February. Today we're going to talk about a concept that is simple in theory, seems initially difficult in practice, but is powerful when implemented in our daily lives. I'm talking about presence and breaking it down, really making it a bit more concrete, even though it's really not something that's entirely concrete. But I'm going to bring in a handful of different sources and share with you some specific examples. First of all, explaining what it is exactly. Then sharing a variety of different benefits that you're going to experience and witness in your life. And then also share with you what this looks like in daily practice. So hopefully all of those more hands-on, precise examples or items that we're going to talk about today will help this somewhat elusive concept become more concrete. But before we get into that, and to conclude today's episode, our petit plaisir is a delicious one, a simple one, and a luxurious one. And I'm going to take you in the kitchen, and we're going to make this together. So stay with me, and that will happen at the end of today's episode. Before I begin, I want to assuage any confusion that happened with the episode 349. There were, when I first uploaded it, a lot of different gaps randomly dispersed throughout the episode that didn't appear when I was listening to it in my office. But upon the upload, that happened, and I do apologize. It took me a few days to realize this was happening. I have gone back in and I have completely re-recorded the episode. So if you tuned in early on when it first uploaded and you're like, what the heck, Shannon, what happened? I was saying the same thing, by the way. It's all been fixed, and you can re-listen to the episode 349, What I Have Learned in French Class So Far, Part 4, now wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. So thank you for your patience and understanding. Technology got the better of me there, and I'm learning. I'm still learning. 9 years in, I'm still learning about how to be a better podcaster. All right, so let's dive into today's topic. I've titled today's episode, The Skill of Presence and Why It Is at the Core of True Contentment. And I want to begin with a very simple quote. Presence is power. And we'll talk about what that power means as we work through today's episode. What if I told you that the solution to your quandaries about life, love, work, finding calm, keeping calm, anything of value and importance to you already resided within you, or should I say resides within you? While initially this may seem impossible, in actuality, when we dig down deep to the core of our motivations, our hopes, and even our fears, the answers rest in being able to hold ourselves in the present moment, consciously on a regular and consistent basis. Now, this may seem elementary, even a simpleton answer, but today I want to share with you why indeed it is true. And while there is a complexity behind it, it's actually very simple in practice. It all hinges on being conscious and also living with intention. And how exciting is it to know that what we have been seeking and not yet finding outside of ourselves has been within us, has been within our power all along, because it isn't outside of us. It can only be found within. The first thing we have to do when we want to enable the power of presence into our lives, the first thing we have to do when we want to welcome the power of presence into our lives is consciously change our minds, how we think, the unhelpful and destructive defaults we fall into. And that is where most people balk, turn away, and settle back into what they have become accustomed to, because this part of the journey takes time, direct and intentional effort, and prioritization. But when we choose to invest in being able to hold our mind in the present moment, which is the primary concept of mindfulness, while it may take time to create this new default, with practice, it makes all the difference and eventually becomes the new default and a constructive habit that elevates the quality of your life. Today, I look forward to sharing with you 3 components about why choosing to be actively present in your everyday life is a pursuit worthy of your time and investment. First, I'm going to share with you how to strengthen and deepen your ability to be present. Then I'm going to share with you the benefits. And lastly, I'm going to share with you what being present looks like in our lives. So first, what is presence? And I capitalize presence throughout the show notes if you stop by the blog. Paradoxically, being present is to free ourselves from our mind. As Eckhart Tolle teaches in his internationally acclaimed first book on the subject, The Power of Now, he writes, quote, "The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation," end quote. But again, back to the question, what is presence? Here we go. And I've bolded this on the show notes. Presence is to be free of thought, as explained by Tolle. And if you have his book, The Power of Presence, this is shared on page 94. He writes, quote, "You are still, yet highly alert. The instant your conscious attention sinks below a certain level, thought rushes in. The mental noise returns. The stillness is lost." Now, in a second, when we talk about specifically how to strengthen this skill of holding ourselves in the present, I will talk about the misunderstanding about stopping thought and freeing ourselves from thought. There is a key difference. The verb is distinctly unique to what you're actually doing. So I will differentiate between what that means here in a minute. But first, how can we hold ourselves free of thought if we have to go about our days using our minds, you may be wondering, which is a fair question. Well, it begins, as Tolle again teaches, with being deeply rooted within yourself. Being deeply rooted is something that you don't have to search for. It has always been within you. You simply need to return to it. Here's a quote from a meditation session from Andy Puttycombe. Quote, "We might think that we are stuck with a mind we have, that it's not capable of change. But habits can be unlearned. The mind can let go, and our lives can be transformed." Hold that quote. Hold that thought, hold that truth in your mind whenever you begin to doubt that, no, I can't change these habits. This is how my brain works. No, it's how it's been conditioned. And it's how we've allowed it unconsciously to be conditioned. Because I don't think you want, and I didn't want my mind to constantly default to worry, to default to being fearful, to defaulting to being doubtful. That's conditioned. And if we do it enough, it becomes the default, but we can change that. But it does require effort, and it does require intention. So then how do we change our mind? Great question, and let's dive right in. How do we discover what resides within us already, but has been obscured? So here's my list. This is where we begin to welcome new habits into our daily life. Little, simple, but regular habits each day. The first thing to do is simply meditate. Now you might say, well, it's not simple for me, Shannon. And if you have listened to this podcast or read the blog over the years, you know that meditation has not been a simple journey for me either. I began in my 20s and I said, what? This is so confusing. I don't know how to do that. I have to stop my brain. What? But that was the errant thinking on my part. And finally, I had access to the right resources as far as people and instructors, teachers, mainly in books, mainly through apps, but also through my yoga instructors and instructors that knew what yoga was really all about. Not just the physical, but the mindfulness component, the capital Y yoga, the uniting of outside and inside, beyond us and within us, the world and ourselves. So, as an HSP, as many of you know that I have shared that I identify with someone who's a highly sensitive person, our minds go. Very, very, very busy. Not to say that people that aren't HSP, that doesn't happen, because it does too. But that is one of the characteristics. So with that said, what I have found for me is that guided meditation is most helpful. And for me, what that is simply using an app. And I use Headspace, but there are so many others out there. And so there's someone, as I'm meditating, talking, not the whole time. There's a lot of silence, but it helps me focus and also pull back from my thoughts and become an observer. And that is what I want to make sure we're clear about the difference. We are not stopping our thoughts. We are not erasing thought. We are becoming observers of our thought. And I wrote a detailed post on the ideas of what meditation is and how it can benefit your life. And I will link to that in the show notes on this list. You'll see that there. But simply begin meditation with 1 minute a day. In a yoga class that I'm taking now, the instructor has us meditate just for 1 minute during a very strenuous power yoga class, vinyasa class. And for me, that 1 minute passes very quickly. But I know 15 years ago, that would have seemed like a very long time. Start with 1 minute. That's it. And work yourself up as you feel comfortable, not because you have to, not because you should, but as you feel comfortable. There, for a long time, I was just doing 3 minutes, then sometimes dabbling into 5. And I didn't start regularly meditating for 10 minutes until early last year. And now I've started to consider bringing in 2 meditation sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. You have to see the value in it to be motivated to do this. And so that's why it might take you a long time just hanging out in the 1 minute land, and that is okay. As I shared, it has taken me nearly 15 years to be able to do what I'm doing now, 10 minutes every single day. And as I said, I'm dabbling into 2 sessions of 10 minutes, but I am far from consistent on that. But 15 years. But it was in finding teachings and guidance that helped me make sense of what I was doing, how to do it. And quite simply, my overthinking was getting in the way of doing this well. I was making it far more complex. I had become so ingrained in the habit of constantly thinking that once I realized what that meant, it made it easier for me to then become an observer of my thoughts. Not to stop my thoughts, but to free myself from my thoughts. See the difference there? The thoughts are still there, but you're freeing yourself from them. You're extricating yourself and you're stepping back and going, okay, I'm thinking about the stress that I feel when I received an email from my insert whoever, whatever, about a project that I'm not done with or I haven't figured out how to solve or whatever. I am feeling stress. So you're mentally pulling yourself back and looking at that thought from an outsider perspective and not becoming emotionally engaged with it, you're creating distance. And you're one step closer to becoming someone who is very aware of why they feel what they feel, why they then do what they do. But it all starts with having the power in your mind to free yourself from thought, to step back from it, not to stop thinking. Okay, I really wanted to talk about that one in detail because that one is where it all begins. So that's the first way to start strengthening the habit of presence. When you can step back from any situation and be an observer, you are more readily available to be fully present in a moment without getting lost in it. And I mean lost in a deconstructive way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. The next thing is simply become aware of wanting more. Anything that is outside of yourself. So it could be you want more love, you want more toys, and I put that in quotation marks, whatever your toys are, more clothing, more money, seeking more to feel more fulfilled. And I put fulfilled in air quotes too, because we think being fulfilled is something that can only be acquired outside of us. And that's not true. That's the good news. Once you become aware of this habit, you catch yourself, oh, I think I need that. I need to put that in my house. I need to buy that. I need to more. Once you are just aware of when you do this, you're already stepping in the right direction of strengthening your ability to be present. And also something to consider here, once you become aware of this habit that has been taught to us by a culture swarming with advertisements and competition due to comparison and not being enough, we can then catch ourselves and step back from these ones. In other words, you're becoming aware of your thoughts. You're saying, my thought is that I want this. And because you've stepped back from it, you have freed yourself from it, that means you can then go, okay, why is it that I want this? Am I wanting this because I don't feel that I'm enough? And if I acquire this, then I'll feel more fulfilled. Okay, do I really then need that? So it's a way of basically pausing or slowing down, reacting or rushing into things that would not be constructive in your life. And that is starting to lead you into a better life already because you're becoming more aware of why you want things. Doesn't mean you're not going to go buy a nice new pair of shoes at some point. Doesn't mean you're not going to go decorate your particular project room, whatever room that is. It doesn't mean you're not going to go to, just going to use this as an example because I know a lot of Francophiles in the audience, France. It doesn't mean you can't do these things or follow through. It just means you're aware of why you're doing it. So you stop making decisions out of a feeling of lack, a feeling of not already being enough. The next thing, how we strengthen presence, is to let go of judgment. Anytime we are casting an opinion about someone else's choice, behavior, an event, even ourselves, if we cast disparaging remarks about ourselves in judgment, we are not accepting whatever it is as it is. So instead of judging, become an observer. And again, this is where the meditation comes into play. If you can free yourself from your thoughts, that is becoming an observer. In other words, you are thinking about why am I thinking that? And you can think then, is this a constructive direction to go with my thoughts or not? When you become an observer, you then can choose to deepen your critical thinking skills as you ask more questions to better understand an instance in which in the past, you may have immediately jumped to judgment. The next thing, and these next two are similar to letting go of judgment. They all are the same reason why you need to let go of them. Let go of negativity. Similarly to casting judgment, when we are negative about any situation, even ourselves, we are not accepting the moment, the situation, the person as it, they, or we are. Letting go of negativity doesn't mean there is only one other option, ubiquitous optimism. No. We don't have to go from one extreme to the other. And, I'd prefer to go in an optimistic direction than the negative, don't get me wrong. But what we're actually doing when we let go of negativity is simply enabling ourselves to practice awareness so that we don't step back into that bad habit, and provide yourself some space to hold yourself in the observer's seat. So in actuality, instead of not being negative, what you're doing is suspending anything. You're just pausing, you're observing, you're saying, let's see what's really going on here. Let's see why I'm feeling this. Let's see why that caused such an emotional shock or awe or exuberation, whatever it is. You're just slowing down and putting yourself in the place of an observer. Negativity is a form of judgment. So again, instead of jumping, simply explore. Choose to understand rather than castigate or blame. Which brings me to the next item on the list: refrain from blaming. Deepak Chopra shared in his recent book, Abundance, that one of the bad habits we may have welcomed into our lives if we are not living in abundance, which is to say we are not living in simple awareness, is to blame. When we blame, we again are not accepting what is currently in this present moment. We are not problem solving, and we are not constructively exploring to find the lesson so we can move forward well. Whether we are blaming others or blaming ourselves, blaming is a bad habit to let go for good. The next way to strengthen presence is to accept the now. Accept what is in this very moment. This doesn't mean you cannot change it. It doesn't mean you have to like it. But the first step toward changing it is understanding how you were unconsciously contributing to it. And that is where we gain consciousness, by stepping and living each day by being fully present. And again, I want to just really reiterate that simply because you accept what the present moment is doesn't mean you are condoning it. It simply means you are, again, observing it, saying, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I'm seeing. You're just taking it all in so that then you can make better decisions in the next moment. And we're talking literally moments, seconds, next minute, next second, next hour. How am I going to engage? Should I engage? What's the best decision here for me? So you accept what is, because you're not controlling all the factors in this moment. You can only control yourself. So that's another thing to practice to strengthen your presence. The next thing, acknowledge you have a relationship with your pain body and choose to let go of it. Eckhart Tolle's term pain body is tied to our unconscious reliance on letting the ego run the show in our lives. The ego dislikes the unknown, but that's exactly how we let go of the pain body. The pain body is addicted to just that, pain, feeling it, causing it, creating it. Quote, "The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life," end quote. Notice that quote, that phrase he included there, unobserved mind. How do we observe our mind? By strengthening it through meditation so we can be free of thought to observe what we are thinking, not stopping thought. Tolle goes on to say that, quote, "The pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. The more you are able to honor and accept the now, the more you are free of pain, of suffering, and free of the egoic mind." So in other words, free of the ego, end quote. I will share that this concept, pain body, may seem a bit foreign, may seem a bit, what, Shannon? I came to get to know and understand this term clearly and with greater understanding after I read his fourth book in his series, The New Earth. And I've linked to that book, which is also an internationally acclaimed book. I've linked to that book, and I highly recommend you read that if you're trying to really wrap your mind around what is pain body, what's he talking about. But I tried to distill it as much as I could here without diluting it. It is something where we are letting the ego run the show and we are not fully present. The last thing on the list as to how to strengthen presence is, quote, again from Tolle, "Attend to the practical aspects of life and then Just live in the present moment, open to what might happen, not forcing, not expecting, and bringing your full and true self to the moment each time. So applying every other item on that list and then ending on this note is all you have to do. But all the previous points in that list help you do this final point more easily and by default. I wanted to conclude with this particular last item of simply attend to practical aspects of life and then just live in the present moment, because as oversimplistic as it may sound, it really is that simple. We make life and living far too complicated. On this last point, Tolle writes, quote, "Say yes to life and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you." End quote. Saying yes to life is to be in the only place you can be every single minute of your life, in the present moment, in the now, and not bringing to this moment the past or the future, two places we will never be. Because when we were in the past, it was actually in the present moment. When we arrive in the future, that will be the present moment. It's simplifying what we make complicated. I included this point that I'm going to share with you on the show notes because I just want to reiterate that the list that I just shared with you of practices and approaches to help you live more fully in the present moment is an overview. To explore the concepts that we've just discussed more deeply, I recommend, as I shared, picking up any of the books that I linked. So I linked to Deepak Chopra's Abundance. I linked to The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And as I mentioned just a second ago, I recommend picking up or exploring The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So that hopefully will get you started in the right direction or reaffirm what you're already doing. And just to dive deeper or to keep doing what you're doing consistently, it will pay off. Practice takes time. And in this instance, it may take quite a while, but gradually, almost without even you realizing it, but you are going to realize it because you're present, but you're going to start to feel your life become lighter, more enjoyable. And I'm leading into our next section, which is the benefits of living fully in the present moment. I want to begin with a quote from Benjamin Hoff's The Tao of Pooh. Quote, "An empty sort of mind is valuable for finding pearls and tails and things because it can see what's in front of it. An overstuffed mind is unable to." One of the most lighthearted but deeply instructive books on being present and its many gifts is The Tao of Pooh. A handful of years ago, upon being introduced to this gem of a book, it was originally published in 1982, I was inspired to share a podcast episode on the 7 life lessons that spoke to me at that time as I learned from the book. And I've linked to that episode on the show notes. That was episode 237. And while I was still navigating the first steps of understanding why being present was so powerful and how to become more present, this book helped nudge me along my way in the right direction. What I hope to do today in today's episode is ease your mind that unlike so many new skills that we may try to learn, learning and embodying the daily practice of being present takes time. And while we can find ourselves engrossed in the present moment while engaged in certain activities and pastimes that we love, this is good. That is experiencing presence. So at least you have a taste of it. That's great. That's actually, try to recall those moments and what that felt like. We also know that every moment of our lives is not spent doing an enjoyable task. Life, the have-tos, the routines, the work that we have to do to pay the bills, these happen too in our daily lives. However, we may first think we cannot make these unwanted tasks more joyful and hold ourselves in the present moment while we're doing them. Our mind may, we may think that, oh, no, if I'm doing work I don't enjoy, I have to let my mind wander to the weekend. I have to let my mind wander to tonight when I'm doing something far more enjoyable. But this is why learning how to be present takes time, because I have good news for you. You can be fully present in all moments of your life. And it is in doing so that you gain one of the most awesome benefits. So let's take a look at the list of benefits. In no particular order, all right? You begin to see all that is around you, experiencing it fully and discovering beauty everywhere and in nearly everything, which elevates the quality of your everydays. And this is something we have talked about on the blog since it began way back in 2009, savoring the everyday moments, savoring those simple luxuries, intentionally engaging with your everyday life. And you do start to create these moments for yourself as well because you're living with more intention and you're focusing on one thing in that moment at that time. And thus the savoring happens, thus you're being present, and thus you start to see and experience the quality of your life improve. Another benefit, anxiety dissipates because anxiety can only be felt when we are not in the present moment. We are either living in the past or the future. Another benefit, your self-awareness and self-knowledge becomes stronger and you are more quickly able to ascertain what you are feeling and accurately pinpoint why. Next, you begin to live healthier because you are living mindfully, mindful of what you eat because you savor and slow down, mindful of how you feel when you exercise and when you don't, so that caring for your body well becomes a priority because you are paying attention to how your body feels, what it needs, and engaging in those practices that bring it to a place of well-being. Also, your senses, each one, becomes more attuned and accurate, and thus you are more aware of your physical environment, making better decisions, observing others and their intentions more clearly. In other words, you're not stuck in your head. Andy Puttycombe pointed something out in a recent meditation practice. He said, the reason lack of presence hurts us or diminishes the quality of our lives is because we weren't fully present through our physical senses. The mind was in one place and the body was in another. And I think that's an important point to keep in mind. We need all of our senses to be fully present. And if we don't have the capability of one or two of our senses for whatever reason, that's why the other senses become more heightened. And that's a good thing too. We just need to let them show us what is going on in that moment. We need to be fully present so we can hear or observe or take in that information that our senses are giving us and not bring outside thoughts from the past, worries from the future to that moment. The next benefit is that you begin to discern who are people you want to spend time with as you become more clear about why you are drawn to certain people and refrain from repeating unhealthy choices. Another benefit, you enjoy your own company more because you begin to heal yourself as you begin to return to what is true, your true self, and share yourself with the world while respecting yourself, setting boundaries, and creating a life that nurtures your well-being. A recent book that was published by Alex L. titled How We Heal, shared in a recent IG post or Instagram post, and I've linked both her book and this Instagram post on the show notes. It shares very succinctly the many gifts we give ourselves when we begin to heal ourselves. And it's through the practice of being present, through meditation that strengthens our mind, that enables the healing to begin. And the last thing on this list with regards to benefits is that you begin to cultivate a life that brings calm, which reduces your stress and deepens your true contentment in your daily life. As I shared on Monday's motivational post earlier this week, it is only when we are calm that we get the messages that we need to hear, to observe, to understand, that will then direct us or guide us forward on the path that is ours uniquely. And so by cultivating the calm that we gain clarity, and our decision-making becomes more helpful and constructive. In many ways, these benefits reflect what living in the present moment looks like in our daily lives. So as we step into the third component of the podcast episode today, they really are intertwined, the benefits and also what our lives begin to look like. But what I wanted to tether out even more specifically about living in the present is as we move through our days and encounter regular and constant unknowns and the events out of our control, what does that require of us to bring to the moment? And I'm going to talk about that here after I introduce you to a couple of sponsors. I'll be right back. You may or may not know this about me. I love to make my own croissants, but that also means I need the French butter that makes them oh so very delicious. And thus that French butter gets a little expensive, especially with price hikes lately. That's why I have to tell you about my favorite way to save. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, I get cash back on every purchase that I can use to fund my homemade croissants. It's basically cash back for just doing you. For example, I can be alerted to opportunities to get more cash back when I shop at certain restaurants, shops, or gas stations. Just recently, A Cup of Yo is a wonderful little treat place that I like to go to have my own cup of yogurt dressed with all the toppings that are just a nice little special, somewhat healthy treat. And just today, 17% back on my purchase. 17% back. And that money back to me, I can then spend on buying the French butter that I love. So to get started, download the free Upside app and use the promo code Sophisticate, and you get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Then pay as usual with a debit or a credit card. Follow the steps in the app and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Plus, Upside doesn't sell your personal information to third parties. They know that your information is a vital part of their trusted relationship with you. Upside users are earning hundreds of dollars a year. That means more croissants. That's probably why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, download the free Upside app and use promo code Sophisticate to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas using promo code Sophisticate. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Vegamore. When you look at your hair, are you 100% happy? Over the years, I have tried so many different things to strengthen, to lengthen, to create fuller, thicker hair. From a variety of different shampoos to taking certain vitamins, you name it, I've tried it. Thanks to Vegamore, not only am I finally seeing results, but I am finally getting the hair I have always wanted. Vegamore has made my hair stronger, healthier, and longer. Their holistic approach to hair health uses smart botanicals that promote visibly thicker, fuller, longer-looking hair. With help from Vegamore, get healthy, beautiful-looking hair without the use of harmful chemicals. All their products are cruelty-free and never contain parabens or hormones. Having Vegamore as my go-to shampoo and conditioner is a game-changer for my overall hair health. Using their Grow Revitalizing shampoo and conditioner, which work together to visibly create thicker hair and improve hair from the roots simply by massaging in the shampoo for 60 seconds and then following up with conditioner. This simple routine in the shower is all it takes. With Vegamore, there is no risk when trying because they have a 90-day money-back guarantee. But with 91% of customers saying they saw visibly thicker hair with Vegamore in just 3 months, you won't want to run out. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, get the hair you've always wanted with Vegamore. Go to vegamore.com/sophisticate and use promo code Sophisticate to save 20% on your first order. That's vegamore.com/sophisticate, code Sophisticate to save 20% at vegamore.com/sophisticate. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Brooklinen. If you're short on Cupid's arrows but still want a way to make them fall in love, Brooklinen has everything you need to help others create a soft spot in their heart and in their home. It's the perfect place to grab home essentials that whoever you love will love. Brooklinen doesn't let anyone come in between you two by using their direct supplier relationship to source high-quality materials at a fair pricing model. Over 100,000 everyday experts have already fallen head over heels for their 5-star home essentials. The reviews speak for themselves. Sure, you've probably heard about Brooklinen's award-winning Luxe sateen sheets that feel like sleeping on a cloud of buttery smooth softness for a hotel-level luxury. And having had this opportunity to sleep on their sheets, I can attest that is exactly how they feel. Buttery, smooth, and a deep sleep is right around the corner. But pleasure doesn't stop in the bedroom with Brooklinen. Give your bathroom a spa home feel with luxury upgrades like their ultra soft robes and towels. And if you are looking to fully upgrade your spaces, Brooklinen's bundles are the complete package. Choose your bed, bath, or a combo of both to save time and money on creating your dream space. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, create a space that you and everyone else will have a crush on with Brooklinen. Visit brooklinen.com to get $20 off plus free shipping on orders of $100 or more with code SIMPLE. That's BROOKLINEN.com for $20 off plus free shipping on orders of $100 or more with code SIMPLE. Welcome back. I want to begin by saying, with regards to what being present looks like in our daily lives, when we begin the journey of choosing to practice the skill of being present, it is probably the most difficult part of the journey because we're learning something new. It seems a bit foreign because it's not what we've been doing up until this point. And I share this from experience because, as I mentioned earlier in today's episode, especially if you are the only one in your life who is exploring how to welcome presence into your daily practice, it can be really hard to continue forward when others don't live in such a way and you're constantly getting pressure to live differently or pursue different dreams or to live a certain way, or you're being shamed or teased for choosing to live in alignment with who you are because people don't understand. With that said, that is why the Simply Luxurious Life community is a great place to visit when you need a community that does value this quality of life, this valuing of cultivating true contentment. In each month's A Cup of Moments, it's a video chat. I sit down the first day of every month. So today, February's A Cup of Moments is up on the blog right now. And top tier members engage in conversation because in each of these videos, I pose at least one question or what I call a thought to ponder. And they encourage all of us, myself included, because I respond to the questions as well. And then I get back into the conversation and comment with the readers that comment on the post. It encourages each of us to explore our own lives and share a response on whatever that topic was for the month. Sometimes it is sharing what we have learned and how we have incorporated a particular way of life or living that nurtures contentment into our lives. And other times it is sharing ahas discovered through mistakes. So we recognize that we're all on a journey and we're all at different places of this journey, and each of our journeys is unique. But fundamentally, it's this idea of cultivating daily contentment. Whatever is shared, it is with a community of people who value honoring our true selves, being vulnerable and brave. And as we each discover and savor our own unique journeys, we are celebrating each other's journeys as well. So that's just a taste of what you'll find. And if you're looking for more support with regards to a community that understands and gets this idea of contentment, presence, mindfulness, etc. So what does presence look like in our daily lives? And I have a list here. And again, you can go to the show notes and check out everything I've talked about in detail at the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast350. Of course, each of the items I'm going to share with you today, they're going to be unique to you, understandably. But these are daily activities or approaches in awareness that you may incorporate. And by being aware, that is how we are present. Simple awareness is holding, and I'll talk about this more in detail in a second, is holding space between the thoughts to be fully there. So first thing on the list, what does this look like in a daily life, daily practice? Well, you have a dedicated meditation practice that is tailored to what holds you in the present moment. Some may only practice once a day. Others may bookend their days. In the middle of the day too may be a practice. It's up to you. And there are so many different types of meditation. So look into that as well. And I've included those links on the link, the post I mentioned earlier in the podcast episode about benefits of daily meditation and what it looks like in your daily life. So that's the first thing that you would involve, because you're trying to strengthen your mind, right? You're trying to become more mindful and hold it in the present moment. It's a muscle. The next thing is you take a pause. Anytime you are presented with new information, or maybe you read an unwanted email or text, or you receive a phone call or message that disrupts the day, and you do this, you pause to gather your breath, to take an intentional deep breaths, so you can choose to respond when you are ready rather than to react. And I wrote a detailed post, an episode about what the difference is between responding and reacting, and I've linked to it on the show notes. It was episode 145 if you'd like to tune into it. The next way this appears in your life is that you are practicing simple awareness, as defined by Deepak Chopra as the gap or the spaces between your thoughts. And he goes into great detail about simple awareness in his new book, Abundance. But consciously, you're letting yourself just be in the moment without having a thought about what you are witnessing. You're just present and open. And you're not that way all day because, as we talked about earlier, there are daily tasks that you have to tend to. There are practical things you have to do. You have to think. You have to do those things. But it's not always rushing from one to the next and holding yourself in the gaps of just observing, just being present. So it's basically putting meditation into practice in your daily life. The next is to simply embrace and accept what is. Uncertainty of what will happen tomorrow or any time in the future, in 10 minutes, for example, just accepting it. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to respond quickly. I don't know if I'm going to insert whatever it is that you're hoping will happen, but you don't know. You've done what you could. You've engaged how you want to. That's the key. You have to find peace with how you engage with the world, and then you let go. So embracing and accepting what is. And we, again, talked about this a little bit earlier. You're not condoning it if what is happening is not what you like. You're observing it so that you can make a better or best decision in the next moment. You're also no longer comparing yourself and your life to anything or anyone else. This is to rest your presence in awareness and acceptance. Knowing you and where you are is enough exactly as you are. You gather inspiration rather than being led to jealousy or envy, anger or frustration. Next, you become very aware of your breathing and how you breathe. By simply focusing on your breath, you are in the present moment. And that's, again, why practicing meditation helps you here as well, because that is what you're doing. You're slowing down your breathing, making it more mindful, counting your breaths, whatever it is. That is a way to practice presence. Begin to breathe more deeply, especially during moments of heightened stress, as physiologically, due to the effect deep breathing has on the vagus nerve, you will become more calm simply by breathing more intentionally and deeply. And I encourage you to check out episode 336, which was titled How to Live a Life That Nourishes Your Brain, because on point number 7, I share the science from the book that explains how deep breathing can positively affects the vagus nerve, which de-stresses you immediately almost. So that's where the power of our breath, just being aware of it, holds us in the present moment. That's why counting holds us in the present moment, because it doesn't allow us to think about anything else. And the last item on our list with regards to what this looks like in our daily lives is that you choose to consciously savor everyday events, moments, etc. Your morning rituals, your food, your time at work, doing what gives you purpose, even if it's exhausting and difficult at times. time outside, seeing, hearing, feeling all the sounds, the seasonal beauty, etc. Sitting down and doing one thing at a time. This is something that so many of you already do. I read about it in your comments. I read about it in your emails that you send to me. But it is a conscious decision. It is a choice to be fully engaged in whatever you're doing and to savor it, to take in that moment, to see, okay, look at that. The hyacinth has blossomed a little bit more. Oh, the scent of that hyacinth. And I share that example because the picture on today's show notes is a picture of a hyacinth bouquet that I brought into the house. And as I was taking that picture, the scent in that area was just so, wonderful. And it just gradually had started to bloom a little bit more, share more of its scent. And I just savored that. So that's those are some examples, more concrete examples of what this will look like as you move through your day, how you foster being present. And as you do this consciously every day, as you strengthen your mind through meditation, just simply being aware, fully in the moment, eventually this becomes a habit you don't have to do consciously, so that you can even more fully consciously be in that moment. So you don't any longer have to say, oh, whoa, stop, that was wanting. Why do I want this? You start to respond almost by default instead of react. And your days become deeper with regards to the quality, and your stresses and worries become less. It happens. It takes time, but it happens. Which is why I want to conclude on this thought. I know over the past couple of years, I have given much attention to cultivating contentment directly through mindfulness practices, such as the ones we're talking about today. But I share what I have discovered with you because I have seen the positive transformation in my own life. Changes and improvements I honestly never thought would be possible. And part of the reason I initially never thought such peace of mind, such grounded contentment in my everydays would ever be attained was because I was errantly being taught through concrete methods of trying to control everything, from scripting what I would say and doing certain things that were just completely counterintuitive to the reality of life. We can no more control anything beyond ourselves than we can control the weather. And to think we can is a fool's pursuit, and to waste the precious time we have in our one and only life. So I hope to be one of the many resources. As I share, I'm not an expert. I'm a student of this. That's why I'm bringing in all the experts and sharing their books, their insights on all these episodes with you, because I'm still the student and I will always be the student. But I didn't have the resource available to me for a long time. And when I finally did, then it started clicking. And it was gradual. But it started to make a lot more sense because I started to witness the benefits in my life. The beautiful paradox of contentment, as I shared in episode 339, is that through letting go, which seems completely counterintuitive, and so many of the books and guidance that I would read when I was younger, it's completely the opposite. It's not about letting go. It's about trying to control. No. It's true. We actually gain what we have been seeking all along when we let go. It is when we are present and consciously, or as meditation instructor Andy Puttycombe describes it, plugged into the present moment, that everything is observed with more clarity. The foggy mist dissipates and everything each of our senses encounters becomes clear. End quote. And when our minds are clear, we gain clarity and begin making the best decisions for the life that honors our true selves. And when we begin to honor ourselves through our decisions, our courage, and our awareness, we begin to cultivate a life that nourishes our well-being daily. The stress becomes less, and any stress that does arise, we now have the tools to combat it effectively without causing more or extended stress and or any pain to ourselves or others. We see unwanted moments as gifts to teach us something that we still need to learn. And this is also how we strengthen our mindfulness practice. We no longer are resisting but accepting, and by responding rather than reacting, we're able to navigate constructively through and past these moments. And it all begins by choosing to strengthen the skill of presence. Thus, to refer back to the quote that began this whole discussion, a very powerful skill indeed. I will leave you with one last thought from a recent meditation session. Andy Puttycombe shared this thought. It's only by really getting comfortable being in this space, this place right now, that we can really discover a genuine sense of contentment. All right, so as I mentioned, the show notes can be found at thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast350, and I'll be right back, and I will meet you in my kitchen to make a simple, delicious, and luxurious dinner. Okay, so what are we making? We are making one of the most simple dishes. I'm grabbing a medium-sized skillet off my pan rack, and I'm putting it on medium heat. And what we're making is brown butter sauce to put over the top of tortellini that's stuffed with portobello mushrooms. And then finishing it, that's Norman. Norman's in the kitchen with me, aren't you, buddy? Finishing it with fried sage leaves, and if you want, toasted walnuts or any of your favorite nuts. Pine nuts too would be great. So all we do, I'm bringing the water to boil. You can probably hear the water starting to boil here for the tortellini that's stuffed with portobello mushrooms. Now you could absolutely make your own tortellini. That just takes a little more time, and I usually don't have that much time, so I just picked up these tortellini from Trader Joe's. Just a couple of bucks. There's all different fillings for these. I like mushrooms. I've also picked them up at my favorite Newport Market. They're going to boil for about 4 minutes or whatever your package says. And while you're bringing the water to boil is where I want you to put the butter, about 3 to 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, into your skillet. And you're going to brown that, not just melt it, brown it. So let's do the butter first before we put the tortellini into the boiling water. So I want 4 tablespoons. This is for 1 to 2 servings, depending on how many tortellini you are making or going to enjoy. It's gonna feel like a lot of butter, but again, this is your sauce. Now into the boiling water, you want to season that generously. So I'm putting in a good tablespoon or so of salt into my boiling water. Now immediately my butter is melting. Yes, loving this. Still hear that boiling water. And I also just went out into the garden, didn't I, Norman? He's staring at me. Nell's just outside on the garden porch. I went out to the garden and I picked off a bunch of fresh sage leaves. And sage, this is the beautiful part about this being a winter dish, your sage should be making it through the winter. I mean, we just went through a -3 Fahrenheit degrees a few nights. I mean, I still have fresh sage leaves. So this is definitely an herb you'll want in outside or inside for the winter months. So I have about just a good handful of the leaves. Doesn't have to be precise. And that's so simple to make after we make the sauce here. And the best way to make brown butter sauce is to not go any higher than medium heat, especially if you're going to step away from the skillet. You want to keep it on low. And just literally, you'll see the butter start to brown. And it usually takes a couple of minutes. And you just kind of pay attention. You can stir it if you want, but you just don't need to. Mine is doing pretty well. So I'm going to put my tortellini into the boiling water. Here we go. And they're just going to cook for about, the directions or instructions say, about 4 minutes. You coming, Miss Moo? There she comes from the garden porch. Both pups are in here. Hello, guys. Hello, little one. Hey, little one. Hey, Mr. Norman. Hey, now. Yeah. Hello. My sous chefs. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, because The tortellini are going to cook very quickly. I'm putting in the sage leaves. And the sage leaves will sizzle and cook and become exactly what you want in just a couple of seconds, really, literally 3 seconds. So you do this right before you put the tortellini in. Okay, yum. Just adds a nice layer of flavor to what you already have in the brown butter and in the portobello that's stuffed inside your tortellini. You can hear the hopping. That's the sage leaves. Hear that? Ooh, yeah. It's not quite brown yet. The butter's not quite brown yet, but it's getting there. We're doing real time here. Again, this is an easy dish. Some families make this for our holiday dinners, Christmas Eve dinners. It's an Italian favorite for many people. Ooh, that butter is just boiling beautifully. Checking on my tortellini. Ooh. This is gonna be so good. So you can also have your toasted nuts either done ahead of time, or you could have done it before we did the brown butter in an oil-free pan. Just for about 10 minutes, just toasting them on the oven top with a skillet. All right, ooh, yes, okay, here we go. My sauce is beautifully browned. You can turn it off, the heat off, once your butter is browned if your tortellinis are not done. Again, they'll probably just take a couple of minutes. My package said 3 minutes. My other package I've used before said 4 minutes. That's how quick this happens. So I'm going to turn those off. And all you do, this is how simple and quick this is. Scoop those up. Use a pasta catcher to get those. Like that. And the stovetop is turned off. This is just the residual heat from that butter. But because I want to have enough sauce for all of my tortellini, I have 4 tablespoons of butter. Oh my gosh, this smells so good in here. Now use a spatula so you don't break the tortellini, and gently toss everything in the sauce. Oof, make sure it gets soaked up there. Oh, this is yummy now. This is yummy. The sage leaves are there getting danced around. So good. So good. Oh, it just looks so yummy, doesn't it? Her tail's just a wagging. She's like, something smells good. It does indeed. Okay, now let's plate this up. Pulled out of the fridge some fresh Parmesan, and I'm just gonna scoop, or slide really. They're just sliding right out of the pan. It's so buttery and lovely. Tortellini into a dish, getting those sage leaves on it. Save that for a second serving later. Not today, but maybe today. And I have a grater, and I'm just grating some fresh Parmesan on. That's it. That's all you have to do. So simple. Let's take a bite. Get a little sage leaf on top of that one. Yum. So simple. And so, the tortellini filled with the portobello, you have a little bit of meatiness with that mushroom. At the same time, the cheesiness comes from a little bit of Parmesan that has a little bit of bite to the salt, and the buttery sauce. I mean, you just can't go wrong with butter. You just can't. So that's brown butter sauce, or a portobello tortellini with fried sage leaves. Give it a try in a matter of 15 minutes. That was real time. You're gonna have a delicious meal. Find your favorite glass of wine. I do think you'll enjoy this recipe, and you can find it on the blog at the show notes, the Simply Luxurious Life /PP350 or podcast 350. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Look for a brand new episode in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday, February 15th. Until then, I'll be on the blog. Hope to see you there. Bonjour. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Couple Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.